favourite is, of course, the director of Sharia Watch UK, Anne-Marie Waters. And a lot of you, my listeners, have said they want her. So let's have a chat with her now. Good afternoon, Anne-Marie.
Good afternoon, John. How are you?
I'm very well. Are you confident for Friday?
I've no idea what's going to happen. I've enough time in politics has told me you can never predict things. But what will be, will be. We'll see. We'll see.
Have you had a good response, though, from going around the country speaking to the party faithful?
Absolutely. I get support everywhere I go. And it's been building. It's been getting bigger because people have seen. They've heard from me rather than hearing from the media. And the support has been growing. So either way, it's been a great experience, and I've seen how much concern there is out there for many issues, but particularly the one that others don't necessarily want to address.
Okay, and the main criticism of you, and I'm sure you know this, is that you're a one-trick pony. You only talk about Islam. What would you say to that charge?
Well, over the months going around the country and involved in the various hustings, I still don't know, for example, what other candidates' position is on the NHS. I've made mine very clear. I haven't heard a great deal about the future, about future generations. I haven't heard a great deal about law and order and policing, which I've been talking about a lot. I still think that I've produced the broadest manifesto of any of the candidates, and I've been talking about a lot of issues. And from many, what I've been getting in response is far right. So I don't accept that at all. I've had a broad manifesto. I talk about a lot of things, and it's just another smear.
Okay, let's talk about some of those things. What is your position on the NHS?
Well, I'm absolutely committed to it, to keeping it free and public. This, I think, has to be clear. Politically speaking, the NHS is a massive topic, and you must be clear on it. And I think over the years, there's been a privatisation shadow of the NHS hanging over UKIP, and it needs to go because we're going to be relying on a lot of people who use it, for example. I'm very clear I want to keep it free and keep it public, but I've worked in it for years and seen a lot of the problems up hand, and the problems, a major problem is the massive layer of bureaucracy that was injected into it mostly by Labour in the late 90s, which made its budget explode, but less efficient. And the core reason for that is waste, and you have a layer of bureaucracy which exists only for itself, from what I can see. And the power was taken away from the doctors, and authority was taken from the doctors, and the standards dropped. And we need to talk about it. And I don't really hear anyone in politics talking about the NHS like this, and having a clear position on it. And of course, law and order is another one, which other political parties won't talk about because it's politically incorrect.
So, what's your views on law? What's your views on law and order?
Well, we have to take this left-wing ideology out of the police. And to be specific, the Macpherson inquiry recommendations, we have to criticise the racialised policing that they created, where we now have policing where the police are wondering what's politically convenient or not. A lot of this, Rotherham and other things, happened because the police didn't want to stir up any sort of social issues. Well, that's not their concern. We must return them to a police force, not a police service, and they have a job to do, and that is to enforce the law without colour, without religion, or without anything else. We need to do this, and we need to be very clear about it. What's missing in politics is a lack of clarity.
Well, today, of course, there's a massive law and order story. There's this 24-year-old medical student from Oxford University. She's not being sent to prison, Lavinia, because she's got such a bright future. I mean, a lot of my listeners are saying, hold on a minute, we've got a 2- or 3-tier legal system here. If she'd come from a council estate, she'd already be in chokey.
Absolutely. I mean, she must... The lack of consequence is a hugely damaging thing for society. I mean, what is it that this woman was convicted of doing?
She's convicted of stabbing her boyfriend with a carving knife while high on cocaine and booze and ecstasy.
Right. Well, she rather messed up her own future, I would suggest. She needs to be punished. This is absurd, absolutely absurd. I can't believe that happened, actually. I have to go and read that.
Now, talk to me about terror. What do you think of the response to terror? In particular, I'm thinking of people like Sadiq Khan and indeed Theresa May. How are we having the right response to this jihadist threat?
Of course not. Of course not. We're not even naming it. They're making it sound like it's just one of those things. I mean, didn't Khan say it himself, part and parcel of a big city? You know, they're making it sound like this always happens. It doesn't always happen. It's happening now with increasing regularity over the last few years, and that it has a common factor running through it. This isn't just normal everyday life, and that's what they're treating it like, trying to get us used to it. It's quite scandalous, actually. We need someone who has the guts to talk about this and to take them all on. You're going to have to take on mainstream politics and the mainstream media and have the guts to stand up to them and insist on telling it like it is, insist on telling the truth. These are jihad attacks. They're not motiveless, as we're led to believe. They are jihadi attacks. There's an ideology behind this. We've got to face it. We've got to face it.
So why do you think the MSM and mainstream politicians don't face it? What's the reason?
Several reasons. I think, for individuals, there are career reasons. I think even if journalists, if one of them might have half a brain and think to themselves that she's got a point here, but they won't print it. Editors won't let them print it. They risk their careers. Politicians, a million different reasons as well. Largely international obligations, international relationships with Saudi Arabia. Also to keep it nice and quiet and cushy, kick the can down the road and let the next generation of politicians deal with it. There are, everyone's got their own reason for this lack of courage. But across the board, I think with politics and media, they simply want to keep this thing quiet, or they simply don't have the knowledge or the intelligence, frankly, to understand it and to face up to it.
So what do you say to the former leader of UKIP, Nigel Farage, who says the party will be finished if you're elected?
Well, why not let's wait and see? Surely this is doing more damage to the party. Let's wait and see. If it's finished, if I can't win votes, then so be it. I believe strongly that I can. I believe there is a massive appetite for honesty, especially about the big issue that no one wants to talk about. And if I'm wrong, then I'll be proven wrong. But why not give me a chance? And this denouncing me before we've even begun is doing far more damage to the party. And frankly, it's dismissing. It's doing what has happened for the last couple of decades. People who express a negative opinion about Islam are ignored and then attacked and demonized. And it's doing exactly the same to all those members in UKIP who agree with me. Disappointing.
Do you believe that Nigel Farage is a coward when it comes to Islam?
No, I think he just doesn't know it. He doesn't have I don't think has he read the Quran, I wonder? I think there's a lot of lack of knowledge on this issue. People who are persuaded themselves by mainstream media without looking into it in much detail. And, to be frank, the MEPs who are denouncing me, none of them have had the decency to come and talk to me about it and to get my side of it, to hear from me before denouncing me in this way. I think it's a lack of knowledge.
So if you were elected, how would you unite the party? I mean, like a lot of MEPs say they would leave or they wouldn't work with you. So what would you do? Do you want these people in the party, or would you say, okay, the grassroots have elected me, I'm just getting down to business, I don't care what you lot do? What would your approach be, or would it be reconciliation? Because I'm getting sort of echoes here of Donald Trump. I'm going to drain the swamp, and then when he got there, he's found that a little bit more difficult, hasn't he?
No, it's not a drain the swamp. I'm more than happy to reconcile, but on the grounds that I'm respected as a leader. I've said all along through this campaign that when it's over, we ought to, all of us, let bygones be bygones and move on for the good of the country. And I still say that. But I will also require some respect for the fact that the members elected me as leader. And of course we can move on, provided respect goes in both directions.
Okay. So what did you make of what most people are calling a remarkable victory by the AfD, Alternative for Deutschland, in Germany? I mean, no matter the fact that Merkel won, she actually really lost, didn't she? What do you make of the way they fought their election, and do you think it's something that UKIP, with your leadership, could mirror?
I don't think the situations are quite different. So the idea of mirroring anyone, we need a message for the British people. But it's an incredible victory, and it is a victory. I think 94 seats from 0 to 94 is an incredible achievement in one night. And it does show that there is a shift across Europe. And up until now, British people haven't really had anyone to give them the same chance to vote. That's what I want to do with UKIP. There is concern across Europe about these issues, and AFD are every bit as like described as, I don't believe I'm hardline on Islam, but that's what I'm described as, every bit as hardline as I am, as was Marine Le Pen, as of course is Geert Wilders, doing very well in the last year or so. There is a shift in Europe, and Britain so far hasn't had anyone to vote for if they feel similarly to the growing numbers in France or Germany or the Netherlands. And I would like them, obviously a British version. We need a British message for British people. But that is what I would like UKIP to give. The forgotten people, the people who feel they have no one to vote for.
So what would you say to a British Muslim who's listening to this? Would they have anything to fear from an Anne-Marie Waters leadership?
No, of course not. Of course not, provided you obey the law. And the problem is that there are aspects of Islam which are, in our society, illegal. Now, there's no choice here, as far as I'm concerned. There's no cultural accommodations of any kind. You will obey British law in all aspects, even when that clashes with Islam. That's it.
Tell me which aspects, then, in your opinion, are illegal, and they would have to stop under an Anne-Marie Waters leadership if you were Prime Minister.
Well, inciting violence in mosques. Incitement to violence is a criminal offence, but it happens with impunity in mosques. We ought to be going in and enforcing the law. If it has been preached in mosques that gays should be killed or Jews should be killed, that's a criminal offence. It needs to stop. And the religion you give no accommodation to religion for that. It's a criminal offence. The more obvious ones, of course, the child marriage that we know is going on in mosques across this country. Underage girls forced into marriage. This is rape and kidnap or whatever other criminal offence we can apply to it. It needs to stop. FGM is another one. And they are, whether people like it or not, justified and sustained by Islamic readings. This is reality. And under no circumstances can we allow crimes to be committed in the name of religion. Halal is another one. We have stunning for a reason. And that reason was to stop the suffering of the animals. So to give an exemption to religions, in other words, to allow the very thing that threatens the animals to do it anyway, is absurd. These are things that we must enforce the law, regardless of religion. And it will mean we will clash with imams. It will mean we will clash with the left. And then we have to have the guts to stand up to them and continue to push forward.
Good talking to you. Thank you very much indeed. Good luck for Friday. I'm sure we'll talk again. That's Anne-Marie.
We will make America great again.